Hey, it's Metal Dave with you on another episode of Talk Louder. I'm joined, of course, by my co-host, Jason McMaster. Jason, how are you today?
What up? I'm doing
What
good.
up?
Doing good.
So we've got a great show today. We're going to talk about paid meet and greets and what that has done to the concert industry, what that means to fans, what that means to bands, the pros and cons. I remember the day when you used to be able to go to in-stores where the band would wait for you at the record store and sign autographs and that sort of
free.
thing, take a photo.
That was free.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was free, exactly. And now, you buy these VIP packages and they can get pretty expensive and you get various things depending on how much you pay. And we're going to talk a little bit about how it used to be back in the day. I feel like it was a little more personal back in the day, and today it's kind of gotten to be part of the business end of it. I wanted to share something with you. My 12-year-old son went to a record store with his mother yesterday and came home with a $10 copy of Hanoi Rocks.
I love that record.
Yeah, and I've wanted this album for a long time on vinyl, and it used to be pretty hard to find, and if you could find it, it was very expensive. And now it's been reissued. I've seen it. It's not as difficult to find anymore, but you pay, $25, $35 for it now because it's on 180-gram vinyl and that sort of thing. But anyway, he found it for $10 in a bargain bin somewhere, and there's proof right there that I'm raising my kid right, because he knew Dad would have to have it.
Yeah,
so he brought it home.
The Metal Dad Award today. So
yeah. Well, he brought it home and he was very excited to share it with me, and I was, very excited to get it, of course. So I listened to that a few times last night, and it's a great album. Little trivia for you: do you know who produced that album?
I don't, but I think you're going to tell me.
I am. You'll know this name, of course. Mr. Bob Ezrin produced it.
That's a whole nother show. We could do a whole show on Ezrin.
Bob, of course, famous for his work with Kiss and Alice Cooper and probably many others that I'm forgetting right now. But that's where I know his name. From the back of all those Kiss albums and Alice Cooper records. But anyway, he produced that Hanoi Rocks album, and of course it was the last album they ever did before Razzle was killed. But great album, and especially made even greater because it was $10. So happy to add it to my collection. Yeah, happy to have it. We were going to discuss today the pros and cons of paid meet and greets. That they've kind of become an industry standard over the past few years. Some of our listeners may have actually purchased them. Kind of want to get your take on that, my take on that. And so what are your thoughts on that initially, the whole paid meet and greet thing?
I have mixed feelings. My knee-jerk reaction is to have a negative feeling about them. There's a lot to talk about on this subject because who's getting the money. Sometimes if the band is putting those together, I feel like they have to okay it with the promoter. Because the promoter sometimes, and this is kind of herky-jerky, because sometimes the promoter feels like that's money out of their pocket, right? It's like, well, the bands, people are buying tickets, and you're getting your percentage of you're getting your cut, and we're getting our flat fee. Unless it's a versus thing, and then for us to make some extra money, we're going to set up our own meet and greets, right? And sometimes back in the day, I think the record label would do that for the band. And I don't think the meet and greet had anything to do with money at all. I think it was something they did with the local radio stations.
Local record store.
Yeah, and no one was making money. It was more or less the label sending pulp, promotional materials to that record store or that chain of record stores to promote an in-store while you're on tour. And every stop you would do a little record store meet and greet. And sometimes those would turn into these, 200 people in line, where everyone who's at your meet and greet is at your show and they're excited as hell to do it. And a lot of that in a good way, the quickie description that I just gave, where it wasn't really the band or the promoter doing it, where it was the label setting it up and there was really no money exchanged, that helped sell records. Because if people didn't have your record yet, but they saw your video or something like that, or they already had the record or whatever the situation is, it's a win-win. The radio station wins because they get more fans. They get to see fans react. They get to, give everybody a bumper sticker with the radio station tagline on it. They get to, and the record store sells more records because people will shop. And the chances are like 110% that someone is going to buy your record to go get in line with the record they just bought at that record store to get it signed.
Yeah. I remember the days when the in-stores were, they were free and it was a really cool thing. And, and you could show up and you weren't like nowadays. Not only do you pay for a lot of this stuff, but in some cases you actually have to, the artist will only sign whatever they're promoting. So it's the latest album or whatever. You can't bring your vintage 1976 copy of something on vinyl. You could probably get away with it, here and there. But the rule is supposedly in some cases that you only get an autograph on whatever it is that the artist is promoting. And I've always thought that was, I don't know, kind of lame. I'm speaking entirely as a fan, and I need to preface this by saying I totally understand the artist's position in all this. Nobody's buying albums anymore the way they used to. So this is a new income stream for the bands and the artist. I totally understand that. But speaking selfishly as a fan, as someone who used to hang out at venues at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, hoping to catch somebody at sound check, it was a badge of honor before, when you actually got an autograph or got a photo with somebody out in the parking lot of a venue because you were persistent and you knew how to play the game and whatnot. And it seems like now, if your wallet's fat enough, you can get, a photo and an autograph, and it doesn't say much necessarily about your loyalty to the band or whatever. It says that you had enough money to spend. So
right. Well, I think that back to what you're talking about, you're like the lot lizard hanging around the bus or the even the hotel trying to spot a rock star, and you have a stack of records you want them to sign, and you're to me, you're not necessarily bothering anyone. You're just waiting to get a glimpse and maybe ask the question, do you mind signing a couple of things for me? I've been out here for hours and I know you're in a hurry. I don't take up any of your time other than sign a couple of records for me. I already have a ticket. I'm not trying to get on the list. Right. That whole story, that is a badge of honor, and that is very cool. And it was always great to see people like that in my experiences, especially when I'm one of the people hanging out trying to get a glimpse of someone I love their music, and I just want to. It's not even really about. I never had a camera on me, it was really about getting a record signed or something, right? Show poster for that evening, whatever. But that's a lot different, and that's more like a warrior than it is paying to. Hey, look at me, kind of thing, which is what it's kind of turned into, a Cadillac cowboy situation. I feel like, what I just was talking about is also related to pre-internet, when you were reading Circus or Cream magazine or just even saw an ad in the local newspaper for a release date of your favorite band's new record coming out, you would go to that record store and stand in line before the sun came up to be the first person to buy that record, because that's how much you care about the music and the band and you love that. Now, some people today, like young kids who consider themselves to be rock warriors today, they're probably laughing at guys like us, the old dudes, man. My parents used to stand in line to buy a record. That's dumb. When all they have to do is pick up their phone with one eye open and press a button and they're downloading the new record. And that's pretty weak as far as your status of rock warrior in my eyes. But back to, paid meet and greet, or just the idea of, you bought a ticket, you can buy a package, right? There's a package deal. Okay, you can buy a ticket to the show. That's package one. Package two would be you can buy a ticket to the show and get a T-shirt. That's package two. Well, package three, you get a ticket, you get a T-shirt, and you get a photo op with, go to the sound check. But I mean, it's like you're talking going from $20 to like $500 in 10 seconds flat.
Right. And the photo features you leaning over a table with the artist on the other side of it. It's not exactly, arm in arm in the parking lot of the venue. It's very, I don't know. I've seen some of them where there's still a certain amount of distance. It's still very artificial and a very assembly line, as you described. I like the much more the candid stuff where you just bump into somebody in a parking lot and they're like, cool with you being there, because as you said earlier, you're not there to pester them. You're not there to take up a lot of time. You're obviously there for a reason. Hopefully they appreciate that you're there at 4:00 in the afternoon, But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt, because you were talking about the packages. The packages go from X amount of dollars and they quickly escalate depending on, what you add to that bundle.
Yeah. And everybody knows that, and they use these photos for their Christmas cards. If you pay the right price, you can literally stand there amidst the members of KISS, and that's your Christmas card for probably at least the next 2 years, because it's a proud moment. And, ding, ding, you paid for it. Da-da-da, there it is.
Yeah.
And everybody, I'm not mad at Gene Simmons for being a merchandising genius, but, I'd probably even go as far as to give him credit of thinking, well, what if people paid as a ticket package to just come back here for a minute, and you guys mind standing in line when our makeup is real fresh and, make some extra dollars on the dole, and I think that's a new thing is born. But I feel like that's different than the in-store. That's not the same thing as an in-store. I think that the in-store is way more organic.
Yeah.
Everybody's in a line. I've done in-stores, not to make this topic be about me, but just for a second, I've done in-stores with my bands where, there'll be a lot of people and you're there for hours signing stuff. Well, when it's all done, the people that are still there, we hang out with them. We're just hanging out. And because they deserve real time with someone that they, took the day off of work just so they could come hang out. And there's something very real about that. And when that happens, that's great. I've stood in line at the Sizzler behind people and go, this is the guitar player for Accept standing right in front of me. I'm going to tap on his shoulder. Wait, should I tap on his shoulder? I'm going to tap on his shoulder. And I did. Tapped on his shoulder. And, this is from our producer. Something about CCR. Jared worked for CCR, and They never charge for meet and greets. He says he asked one of their managers about who's done. Oh, Richard Luckett is the guy's name who's done paid meet and greet. His response was absolutely not. That's from someone who has done hundreds of meet and greets, so doesn't agree with it. Paid, not paid. Let's get back on subject. I want to talk about the literal like paid meet and greet and the dirty side of that, because I feel like as a fan, when I hear that one of my idols is charging this astronomical, or just my opinion, whatever it is, I mean, a lot of money to me may not be a lot of money to you. See what I'm saying? So let's don't even put a dollar amount on it. I guess it depends on who it is. But I've heard of them where this person is sitting on their tour bus and the tour manager's letting people come on the bus for 5 minutes to get a photo and say, great show, sign one thing, and they're off for this kind of a lot of money. And they have to do it after the show. Some people get turned away because, well, the bus has to leave. We're leaving now. Or if they do it earlier in the day, well, we're not done sound checking, so we can't do it on time. It just sounds like a fucking mess to me. So I want it to be a great experience for me as a fan, if I'm going to pay that much. And I feel what your idea of a great experience would be. Now, I was making a point earlier about, is it the promoter setting up this meet and greet, this paid meet and greet, as they sell tickets? You know, you can buy this many tickets, you can buy this ticket that has you can sit on the upper deck above the stage, or you can buy the ticket, sit on the upper deck and meet the band and take a photo and watch the sound check. Now, that sounds like a dream come true to a fan who's got money to burn. And bless their hearts for that. That's great that they can do that. But is it the band setting that up that's making the money, or is it the promoter? I want to just ask you, how would you feel if you were in a band and you found out just the day before your show, as you were arriving or something, that the promoter had done this, and the promoter was using the extra money that they had sold a ticket option for a meet and greet hangout at the sound check, and the band's in there sound checking, and there's all these people watching you sound check, and the band's freaking out going, why are all these people in here watching us sound check? If the promoter, oops, I forgot to tell you, I sold a package deal and these people are going to take a photo with you and eat dinner with you. And well, man, I've got diarrhea. What if I don't want to be around? I can't be around people right now. I've got to go to bed for a couple hours so I can do the show. You know, you're not checking with me. See, I'm just creating a scenario. You have to jump through these hoops. The band has to jump through said hoops, and sort of ill prepared, right? That's terrible. And the band is not even going to make extra money. Here's the deal: the promoter is using that extra money to pay the band, to pay you, to work. You know, it's not work to meet your fan, but it is. You know, what if it's situational, right?
Yeah. I've always, you know, again, as a fan, it's a fine line, and I totally understand it, and I understand it from both sides of the situation. It is a valid income stream in a day and age when people aren't buying albums and CDs like they used to. I understand that. But me as a fan, I always enjoyed, you know, if I was able to hold up an album that somebody signed and tell somebody that, you know, I bumped into so-and-so in the parking lot because I knew how to play the game and I knew how to show up early and I knew how to approach these people and I got this autograph. And that was really, really cool. And you have the story that goes along with it. Whereas now, you pay a certain amount of money. It's a cattle call. You're one of, you know, 200 people in line. You spend 5 seconds. It's just like an assembly line. They're scratching out the autograph, take a quick photo, but it's not personal. You don't really get any quote unquote hang time. Not that you're having lunch with these people, but a little bit of, hey, what's up? How are you doing? What's your name? Thanks for coming, this sort of thing. Or you hand them something they haven't, an old album's like, well, this was a good one. Yeah, yeah. Or a poster that they haven't seen since, 20 years ago. And they're like, wow, where'd you get this? And then you have a little bit of a conversation about it. And it's sort of this personal interaction that you get that I think is lost today. I think they just herd you through like cattle and you walk away with your trophy, I suppose. But to me, the trophy is only half of it. To me, the story behind getting it was part of the whole experience,
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, we're talking about this, and some of the meet and greet packages, I guess you could say are reasonable in terms of what they cost, but some of them, I mean, like to spend 30 seconds with Gene Simmons or something is, upwards of $500 or something like this. Where do you draw the line? What do you think is, when are you just gouging people? And when is it, I guess the adage is it's only worth what people will pay for it. So if people are willing to pay for it, I guess you'll charge them for it. But to me, some of it seems to be a little extravagant. I don't know. Where do you draw the line?
I think that if it's a planned thing, and the band set it up, or, I mean, what would you think about the band had some family in a town they were playing in and invited their family out to sound check, and it was just going to be kind of a private moment. And then all of a sudden, these, the promoter strings in, 100 people who paid stupid money for a ticket package to get to come in and have dinner with the band, and you're over there with grandma.
But are you obligated as an artist? Are you obligated to honor that if it was done behind your back? Well, you had no expectation of this.
Well, yeah. Where do you draw the line? You feel someone's going to feel bad. The promoter's going to get mad if you say, I wasn't aware of this. I'm having a family day and I was hoping for a private moment. So we have to leave and go have dinner somewhere else. We can't even sit in the catering area, or your family is gracious and they go, nah, do your thing. It's cool. And I personally have been in both of those situations where it's a pain in my ass someone has created, or it depends on what light is on, it just depends. Situational, but it's like rockers who are on tour who have a stature of any kind, they have bad days too,
Sure.
and sometimes you got to suck it up and turn your frown into a smile and go to work, but it turns into work. It shouldn't feel like work. It really shouldn't feel like that. Doesn't matter who you are. If you play music and people love your music, you try to be there for them as much as you can, to an extent, right?
Sure.
And most real fans understand. They understand when you're not doing so hot. Sometimes if you look a little peaked and tired from the road, your fans can tell. And they're like, hey, you look like you're tired, but thanks for signing my stuff and hanging out. That's a relationship between a fan and someone they adore who has to take a nap before they hit the stage.
Right.
It's a real deal. A lot of people are not thinking like that. So when you're, let's don't get off the subject of opinions of paid meet and greets, but I just wanted to put a little bit of reality on it, as much as, the guy, I paid a lot of money for this and I only spent 10 minutes with Gene Simmons. What the hell? I'm mad, to make it, someone better make that right,
10 minutes. That's 9 more than you paid for.
Well, see what I'm saying? I mean, I don't even know because I can't afford to hang out with Kiss. So.
Yeah. And I should say I've never done the paid meet and greet thing. But I also, I was also hanging around venues and stuff before paid meet and greets were a thing. And you talk about the artist having a bad day or not necessarily wanting to spend the time, and I totally get that. And my whole thing used to always be if I bumped into somebody, I'd keep it quick, and I would even say, "Hey, I don't want to keep you. I know you're busy. I know you got sound check or whatever." And if that person then said, "Oh, it's cool, man. We got some time or whatever," then okay, great. But I have always left the door open for you to escape, And if I catch you and it's an unplanned thing, at a sound check or after the show late at night or whatever, um, I feel like, you're not infringing upon the person as much as like a 45-minute commitment where you got to go sit at this table and meet a line of people. It's very spontaneous, and you can choose to spend, 2 minutes with this person or not. And if you do, it's not that painful. I don't think. I've never been on the other end of that, of course,
Oh yeah.
But I've always tried to be respectful of the person's time, and like you said, understand the fact that, at the end of the day, these guys are just people. What if they're having a bad day? What if they had a fight with their girlfriend? What if they're sick? What if the band is arguing or whatever? I get it. I totally get it.
That's the point that I was, and that's really the only point that I was trying to make as far as that. But it does turn into work, and if the band if it's the band putting together these paid meet and greets, and it is the band that is making the money, and if it is something that you stand to make a lot of money doing, where it's going to be like 100 people or something crazy,
yeah,
you better take some Imodium. You better take your vitamins and stand up straight, even though you feel terrible. And that's when you have to go hardcore.
And you signed up for it, basically.
That's right. But that could be disastrous if you're not feeling good. I mean, not to dog on Kiss, but I feel like, you can't take your Christmas card photo with 3 members of Kiss. Everyone's going to say, "Where's Gene?"
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
How much did you pay for this?
Right. No Gene. You're screwed, bro. You're screwed. You better give a call to Gene. Figure it out.
Yeah, our producer Jared brought up an interesting point in a previous conversation on this topic, where we now live in a day and age also where people will show up to these meet and greets with a stack of 10 albums, and their intention is to get the autographs and then turn around and sell the things on eBay. And I just think that's shameful. I've always, in fact, I insist on it whenever I meet somebody and they're willing to sign my album. I tell them to personalize it. I say, sign it to Dave, because to me, having it personalized is more valuable than just having the signature. It's personalized to me, and to me, that's more awesome than just having the signature, which is fine too. But that is sort of, my insurance policy to them, that this thing is not leaving my house. It's a treasured memento that I'm going to keep and be proud of and be happy to have. So yeah, it's kind of like there's almost a little cottage industry where it's like, get as many autographs as you can and then turn around and sell it on eBay and profit off it, which I think is disgusting, But I understand the artists being leery of that sort of situation.
Well, at this point, I feel like I want to jump in and say stuff like this. It's like, people still do that? ? People still do that? I mean, that's kind of a known no nowadays. And if you're an artist who's stuck signing, 15 of the same item, you're falling into whatever
trap.
it is, or what if you're a chain store or a guy who says they work for a chain store, and you're sent 100 posters and you sign 100 posters, and then 2 weeks later you see them up on eBay for $100.
Yeah.
That's dirty. Cool. That's dirty. So
I feel like the whole idea of monetizing something that didn't used to be monetized, something that used to be very unique and special and personal, is kind of a drag. But in the same breath, I'll say I do understand it. If I was in a band that was playing arenas or even clubs, whatever. And as long as I agreed to the meet and greet, it wasn't a surprise that was sprung on me by the promoter or whatever. I mean, I understand it's a source of income, and I would be probably quote unquote guilty of participating in that because nobody's buying my albums the way they used to, and this is where I make up for that lost revenue. So I get it. But as a fan, I hate the lack of interaction and the personal moment that used to exist when you were sort of rewarded for hanging out in the parking lot till 2 a.m. or showing up at 4 p.m. for sound check or whatever,
Yeah,
because that to me tells the artist that you are dedicated and you're loyal and you're probably worth 2 minutes of my time, and I think that's really cool.
Oh yeah. Well, trying to get
course,
hanging around all day, trying to just get a glimpse of, I'll just say it, of a rock star,
Yeah.
Trying to even, some people are not really myself, but I know of people who will linger around a grouping of tour buses just to say, who's on that bus? Who is that?
Yeah.
And that's kind of a thing too. But that's a whole other sort of creepy, sort of like question. Why do they want to know so bad? Are they a fan? Or are they just gonna be a fair weathered fan? If it's somebody I don't really care about, am I still going to harbor them for an autograph so I can sell it on eBay? Or is it worth the time? It can get ugly fast, as far as like vultures out there and kind of what we're talking about. While during this topical conversation we're having here, I can't help but think, especially when we talk about the camping out for tickets and camping out for the new record, and to be one of the very first people in your town to own the new record because you were a fan and you loved this band because they're helping you through your teenage years or whatever it is, or it's a religious experience whenever their songs fill the air, kind of a thing. And you feel like you've won the lottery if you are able to, you're running out of the record store like Christmas morning and it's summertime and you have the new Riot album or the new it could be anything. The new I don't, if you're a John Denver fan, I got the new John Denver. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of music it is. I just think that there is something really cool about someone who is, you could say obsessed with music, obsessed with art, and just somebody creating something that is intellectual property that they are sharing with the world. They're not necessarily doing that so they can be a rich rock star. Some of them become rich rock stars, but the fact that it's a give and take and they're feeding off of you as much as it's a simpatico. It's a whole we're in this together. And I think artist and fan don't exist without each other. I also start to get, that's a little bit of a sentiment there I wanted to add, but I also have this nasty feeling that's in my soul that the internet kills that and has killed all of that just as much as here we are on the internet trying to keep it alive. So the internet's keeping rock and roll alive just as much as the internet freaking killed it.
Right.
This is the new way. I went into this new way kicking and screaming, and I'm still kind of kicking and screaming. I'm just trying to get it on tape. and make songs out of it.
Yeah.
What makes me happy, what makes me sad, what makes me angry, because but I do think that this topic is worthy of conversation from people who care about music.
Right, and I think you touched on a valid point. Back in the day, again, it was a sign of your loyalty if you were the first kid on your block to have gone to the record store and bought the new album on the day it was released. Because now you can do that on your phone, right? So it kind of goes back to the whole organic thing and the whole sense of loyalty and commitment to the band and your status as a fan. If you were willing to go through the trouble, because and it wasn't trouble, you just had to do it. You absolutely had to have that record the day it came out, and you had to go to sound check and hope you ran into somebody.
You make plans, though. You make plans for that. You plan your whole
I think that's at the heart of this conversation. The whole paid meet and greet to me seems to is not that. It's okay. I'm going to the show. I'm going to pay a few extra dollars, a lot of extra dollars in some cases, so I can get the moment with the band or get the autograph or whatever. Whereas before, you kind of had to work at it. You kind of had to know what's up and how to play the game and how to approach people. And I think that was much more personal and much more rewarding, at least for me as a fan. I always, was able to hold up these autographed albums or the photograph with somebody as a badge of honor and say, look, I got this. I did this because I persevered and I went after it. And the person was gracious enough to honor my presence. And, so now I've got this. You don't pay for that, I mean, that was a very personal, awesome moment that I got through my own persistence and the graciousness, of course, of the person on the other end. But so I don't know. I understand it from both sides of the coin, but from my own selfish perspective as a fan, I feel like it's kind of diluted the moment, the magic, so some of that personal connection that you might have been lucky to get if you knew how to go about it. So anyway, let's move on. Shot of rock and roll. I've got one for you.
Okay.
You guys, your band, Broken Teeth, was scheduled to play some Texas dates with Rose Tattoo. And then, of course, the pandemic came through and postponed everything and rescheduled everything, and I think we're now on the second postponement of those dates. But it brought to mind, I wanted to ask you, you have some connection with Rose Tattoo and Angry Anderson, or tell us a little bit about that. I seem to remember you telling me.
I have a couple of fan stories. I wouldn't say I have any connection to Angry or Rose Tattoo, but I like the way you think. You made it sound like a shining moment. I wish were more true maybe than I'm giving myself credit for. The dates that they were going to do, the U.S. dates, they had New York and Los Angeles, and they had a handful of dates in between. None of those are happening because of COVID. The gentleman that we would call the group Rose Tattoo, they have to fly a long way. They are elder statesmen. They are high risk. They are not. They're smarter than the band who feels like they might need to be a hero and go out and do a tour right now and probably lose their ass. I don't think promoters, not all promoters, would be dumb enough to take on a still yet kind of underground band during a pandemic where those venues can only be half capacity at best.
Yeah,
I think it is a huge bummer, and one thing that COVID has killed that I was very much looking forward to, just as a Rose Tattoo fan. When I had my first computer, which was probably 93, I was chatting with some rock fans, just random people in Australia. And I would be telling them, how big of a fan I was of Rose Tattoo. And, there's like, oh, yeah, I bump into Angry sometimes down at the whatever, or, they told me that he wrote for, he's doing some journalistic work for, back then it was called A Current Affair. And that used to be a TV show as well as probably a paper. But in Australia, A Current Affair. And I don't know if he was just writing articles for a website, a new website they had, or if it was a newspaper release version. I don't know. But it was called A Current Affair, which is, in America, that was a TV show with Maury Povich. Anyway. And the guy had the address that went beeline to Angry's P.O. box at A Current Affair. And I wrote Angry a letter. I have the logo tattooed on my body. I love the first few records. It was just
you're a fan. You're hardcore.
It was just a blood brother letter, right? Going, oh my God, mentioned the Toys and the influence that they had as one of those cool underground rock bands.
Yeah.
That I used to read about all the time in Kerrang magazine in high school. And that would have been 81, 82, right? And that's when those first couple records came out, Rock and Roll Outlaw and Assault and Battery. Assault and Battery and Scarred for Life would have been their third, which they ended up in 83 actually toured the U.S. with Aerosmith, among others, on the Scarred for Life tour. So the deal with that is I never thought I'd ever hear back from him.
Yeah.
Few weeks later, I'm just going out to get the mail, and I get the mail, and there's this package from Australia, and I'm looking at them going, what is this? I don't know what could it be? And I open it up, and there's no letter inside, but it's Angry's autobiography, just called Angry. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm literally jumping up and down in the middle of the street holding this book just because I wrote a simple one-page, basically a fan letter to Angry Anderson from Rose Tattoo. So I take out the book and I turn the leaf over, the first leaf, and it says, "To Jason, rock on, Angry Anderson."
Nice.
Or something like that. Because the deal is years and years, and I was so excited, so cool of him, and all I did was write a letter. That's all I did was write. That's better than any meet and greet anyone's ever paid for their entire life combined 25,000 times.
Yeah.
I licked a stamp, and I got, guy sent me his book that it probably sells for, back then probably sold for $30. Okay. So fast forward to recent years. That was in the 90s. Okay. It's 2021 right now. I had lent that book out to obviously a friend that I don't remember who I lent it out to, and I never got the book back. I'm not mad at the friend I lent it out to, but I never got the book back.
But you're kind of mad.
I'm mad at myself. I'm not mad at anyone because I don't even remember who I lent the freaking book out to. That's why I'm mad. Because but I'm reaching out to everyone I know. Dude, did I lend you that book? No, never got it. You lent me your Celtic Frost, your Into the Pandemonium Celtic Frost book, and I have that.
Well, for the record, I don't have your Angry Anderson.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you very much. Anyway, I never got the book back, and I go online, I start crying about it a little bit, and maybe I shouldn't have done that, but But a friend of mine in Germany, Jürgen, he knows the Rose Tattoo guys, and he had a live CD signed by Angry and sent to me with some other stuff. And he sent me some shirts from their tour merchandise, dug into their tour merchandise, and I got some cool stuff just because they read that heartfelt story about me crying about lending my goddamn book out to someone and never getting it back, because it literally said to Jason. So if it's in their library and they open it up and it says to Jason, they're going to hell. If there's a hell, they're going to it. Especially if they said, "No, man, I sent that back." Anyway. Fast forward to I went on eBay and I bought that book. I found the book. I found kind of a sort of a beginning to rot copy of Angry's book that I used to have because I needed to have it, and I paid too much money for it just because I wanted to have it in my collection because I'm a fan. And that's my Rose Tattoo story. It's a bummer that my band that's totally influenced by Rose Tattoo can't be on the bill with them, which was supposed to happen actually in a couple of weeks from now originally, is not going to happen because of the pandemic. And they're just trying to be safe. That's all. They're just trying to be safe. I have a shot of rock for you.
Yeah.
So for as long as I've known you, people have been calling you Metal Dave. And I've had friends like my high school yearbook, I've had friends that Metal Mike, I have a friend, his friends called him Metal Mike because he was obsessed like me with heavy metal and rock and roll and stuff. And they always just called him Metal Mike. And I've known other Mikes or Michaels that have been called Metal Mike as well. You're the first Metal Dave I've ever heard, but see, Metal Jason doesn't work. Metal doesn't sound, see what I mean? But I know if I would have been a Dave or a Mike, they probably would have called me Metal Mike or Metal Dave too. But what the funny thing is you're really like a punk rock guy and a rock and roll guy and a Kiss freak and a Ramones freak and when you think metal, none of the bands that when I think about you as Metal Dave, when I think of David Glessner, I don't really think of you being, I mean, sure, you like metal, but it's more of a life thing for you and not necessarily just, Metallica, the big four on top of, Celtic Frost and, real metal, have the entire Death catalog or anything like that. It's more, you're into Hanoi Rocks and the Rolling Stones and, the Dragons and Danko Jones and you're a rock and roll guy. So tell me and everyone else listening who has a friend like you who's a Metal Mike or a Metal Dave, how you personally, Metal Dave, David Glessner, got the name Metal Dave. Being with the factoids I already spilled.
It is, honestly, it is a bit of a misnomer for all the reasons you just stated. Obviously, I'm a metal fan, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Metallica, the Big Four, Slayer, and all that stuff. But you're right. I am not. I am definitely more of a hard rock, hair metal, punk rock, sleaze rock kind of guy. But the name, it's as most people, a nickname is something that you kind of inherit, And so when I moved to Austin in 1995. I started going out to all the rock and roll clubs, and I went to go see a band called Sons of Hercules. They're from San Antonio, which is my hometown, and I was friends with the guys. So I just moved to Austin. The Sons of Hercules were playing in Austin, and I was like, great, I'm going to go see my buddies, have a good time. I walked in, and the opening band was a local band called the Contradicts, and I loved them. And because they were local, I started following them around and showing up at their gigs. And one day, Houston Richardson is the front man, a friend of ours, and the drummer is a guy named Bobby Fuentes. They came up to me at Flamingo Cantina one night and said, dude, we can't help but notice you're showing up at all of our shows. Who are you? What's your deal, And at the time, I had like super long, like Iron Maiden hair,
Yeah, you had hippie hair, dude. You were a cousin Pitt, bro. I remember.
Yeah. Well, they're like, who's this guy that keeps showing up at our gigs? Because he doesn't look like a punk rocker. He's the metal dude. He keeps showing up at all of our shows. And so we became friends, and they were like, yeah, you need to come over to our house and hang out sometimes. And so we got to be friends as opposed to just, acquaintances at the gigs, And they started calling me Metal Dave. And it was their way of just cutting to the chase, because everybody in the punk rock scene back then had a nickname, because there was always another Dave or another Mike or another Tom or something. So the way you cut to the chase was tag them with a nickname, right? So because of my long hair and the fact that, once we became friendly, we were hanging out. And of course, they started to realize I'm into Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Motley Crue and AC/DC. And they're kind of into that, but they're more into, Rancid and NoFX and The Clash and Cocksparker and stuff like this. So I became Metal Dave. And it just stuck, and it's to this day. Some people don't even know my last name; they just think it's first name Metal, last name Dave.
Right. Well, it shows up like that. It shows up like that more than not. Yeah,
well,
I think
crazy.
Go ahead.
The crazy thing is, when I've been out of town at times, and people will come up to me. I was in Los Angeles one time, and eating pizza at the Rainbow, and this guy comes up to me, and you'll know this guy. Bones Elias.
Mm-hmm.
He's a drummer. He spent some time playing with Patrick Kinnison. And he comes up to me at the Rainbow in LA, and he goes, "Aren't you Metal Dave?" And I'm like, I'm in LA. Who in LA knows that I'm Metal Dave? And it turned out that he's from San Antonio, so he was aware of me. And then once we started talking, I realized, oh yeah, I know you too. But yeah, it's one of those nicknames that stuck thanks to all the punk rockers in Austin, Texas, and has kind of followed me around the world. And it's cool, whatever. I like it, But yeah, it's just kind of one of those things I inherited, and it never went away. So
yeah,
Bones. There you go.
Bones' name is not Bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's another nickname,
right? Because he's a real skinny, tall guy. So I could see where he would be called Bones. He's from the Valley. He's from Texas. He's from South Texas, and that's where I officially him. He's a sweetheart of a guy. I'm glad that you guys met. This has been another really fun show. I love the topic. It's very, very controversial topic. And I think that our shots of rock were decent as well. Dave, you want to take us out?
Yeah. Enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me again today, Jason. Thanks for everyone who's listening and watching. On behalf of Jason McMaster and myself, we'll catch you next time on another episode of Talk Louder. Thanks.